United States Army presents The Big Picture, an official report produced for the armed forces and the American people.
Since Lexington and Concord, clergymen in uniform have served American troops in peace and in war. From Bunker Hill to Brandenburg Gate, the chaplain has brought men to God and God to men. The United States Army chaplain is many men. First and foremost, he is a man of God, bringing religious guidance to soldiers of all faiths. He is a staff officer, advising the commander on religious and spiritual matters wherever United States troops are stationed. He is a counselor and friend to the men he serves. He is instructor, teacher, spiritual physician, bringing comfort and the strength of religion to the sick and wounded. He is advisor of those seeking help, confidant of the troubled. He is with his congregation wherever they may be. The chaplain's religious services, his pastoral activities, his duties as a staff officer are all directed toward one end, the glory of God and the service of his country. By them, he helps the commander accomplish his military mission.
Excuse me, sir, were you talking to me?
Yes, Captain, I was saying that the chaplain can help you in your job as a commander of troops.
Oh, sure he can. As long as he gives us a good service on Sunday and fills up the chapel.
I wasn't referring only to his religious services.
Oh, you mean those other activities? Frankly, I don't see how that helps me much. My job as a commander is to train men for combat and lead them.
Suppose they won't follow. Suppose they have problems that you don't understand or haven't the time to solve.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I respect the chaplain. I like to have him around. But I can take care of things in my company. You give me good NCOs, I'll get the job done.
Getting the job done is a big order, Captain. Takes all kinds of know-how to fill it, including the special know-how of the chaplain. Mind if I call a few witnesses on the subject?
Witnesses? I hope that doesn't mean I'm on trial.
We're all on trial, Captain, when it comes to whether or not we're making the most of our opportunities. Witness, Colonel Robert Gaines.
Most officers have their own idea of what the chaplain's job is, but few of us really appreciate the full extent of it. I found this out when I was commander of an officer candidate regiment some years ago. Come in.
Candidate Thomas, Company D, reporting as ordered, sir.
I've been going over your performance reports, Thomas. You made a very fine showing during your first 3 weeks. Now something's happened. According to this latest report, last weekend, before your class was to leave on a training problem, you tried to get excused. Apparently, you had no good reason. How do you account for this?
No excuse, sir.
You were on your way to setting one of the best records of any candidate we've ever had. You might have been a good officer, Thomas.
Does that mean I'm being washed out, sir?
Is that what you want?
No, sir.
Well, then, you better shape up. I think you can if you set your mind to it.
Yes, sir.
That's all, Thomas. Dismissed.
Excuse me, sir.
Well, there's what I would call an unhappy-looking soldier.
Yes. But he could be a good one if he can get himself straightened out. You know, Chaplain, there's something bothering that man. Oh, do me a favor, will you?
Yes, sir.
Look into it.
Well, I'll look over his history, see if I can spot anything that I can do something about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was expecting my husband.
Yes, I know. I'm Chaplain Deegan.
Chaplain, is Don all right?
Oh, he's fine, Mrs. Thomas.
Won't you come in, Chaplain?
Thanks very much.
Oh, Chaplain, Don should be here any moment now. We're going out to dinner and then to a movie.
Well, I'm afraid that's what I came to talk to you about, Mrs. Thomas. Your husband asked me to tell you that he's not going to be able...
going to be able to make it again this weekend.
I'm sorry. His class has to go out on another problem.
Chaplain, I'm getting so tired of this Army and this school and this whole place.
Oh, now, Mrs. Thomas, why don't we sit down and talk about this for a little while?
This is the third weekend in a row that he hasn't been able to make it.
Well, I'm sure that he's just as disappointed about all this as you are. You know, Mrs. Thomas, OCS is no picnic for your husband.
I know it, Chaplain. And I don't want to be selfish about it. But it gets so lonely here during the week all by myself.
Well, evidently, your husband's been worrying a great deal about you. It's beginning to affect his work in school.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's not something that he'd want to talk about, I guess.
I thought Don wanted me here, near him. We thought we'd at least have the weekends together. But every time we are together, Don's so on edge. We argue a lot.
I wonder, Mrs. Thomas, if both of you aren't, well, defeating your own purpose. I mean, you're staying down here while he's going to school. You know, officer candidate training is never easy, even when a man's giving everything he's got to it. When he has to divide his time and his attention...
Do you think that I'm wrong in wanting to be with my husband?
Oh, now, believe me, the Army's not trying to break up families, Mrs. Thomas, but, well, just now, Don needs your understanding. Even more than that, he needs your patience. As I say, OCS is a tough grind.
This commission is very important to Don, isn't it?
Well, it could mean a great deal to both of you.
Did Don ask you to come here and tell me all this?
Oh, no. It was my own idea to come here. Mrs. Thomas, the country needs military leaders, and your husband has the makings of a mighty good one. Now, I'm sure that you, above all, want him to make the grade.
Maybe it was a mistake, my coming down here. I guess love can be a very selfish thing.
Well, let's say that sometimes it can be a little too possessive.
My friends and my family are in Seattle. I suppose I could go back there until Don finishes school.
Sure.
Do you think he'd understand? I wouldn't want him to think that I was running out on him.
Well, why don't you talk it over with him, wife to husband, and let him know that you understand his problem.
I'll do that. Thank you, Chaplain. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome.
I had no further problem with candidate Thomas. He finished OCS near the top of his class and distinguished himself as a combat commander in Korea. Today, he's a fine officer with a promising future, thanks to John Deegan, Chaplain, U.S. Army.
But that was a family problem. I admit the chaplain's very good at that sort of thing.
Well, let me point out that it wasn't just a family problem. The Army gained a good officer because of the chaplain's help.
Well, yes, but, well, it was an isolated case. I just don't see how that helps.
All right, let's consider another case, Captain. Witness, Major General Charles Baker.
As I remember, Captain, it was during the drive to the Rhine in World War II. Our regiment had been hit hard. We were pulled back in reserve to a small German town that had previously been under our artillery fire. We tried to get the town running normally, but right from the beginning there was trouble. The people were sullen, resentful. I had to deal firmly with them. But I kept looking for some way to get them on our side and make our stay in the town less difficult. Chaplain Kane, our regimental chaplain, was well aware of the problem.
Ja, bitte, entschuldigen Sie mich.
Oh, das ist richtig. That's all that's left of the pulpit. It was a very fine pulpit. It was made by my great-grandfather. He was a fine woodcarver.
This was your church?
We had a stained glass window over there. It was over 300 years old. It used to splinter the sunlight into 100 different colors all over the church.
The sunlight is still there.
Yeah. We had many treasures in this church. Sacred objects. Tradition of centuries. They're all gone now. Your guns.
In war, as you know, Pastor, sometimes things happen that neither side wants.
Oh, you're a pastor.
I am a chaplain, yes.
Then you can understand.
Yes, I can.
You and I, we both know that war is cruel and wasteful. And we try to tell our people, but sometimes they don't listen.
Perhaps in your land they listened to other voices, voices that spoke louder.
Yeah. But people must go on living. They need food, shelter, clothing. More than anything else, they need a place in which to worship their God. It was such a beautiful church. Here they brought their children. They saw them married. They buried their dead. In joy and in sorrow they came here. It was their life.
Perhaps I can arrange to get another building that you can use as a church.
It would not be the same.
Pastor, we want to help your people. If only they could understand. Perhaps if you spoke to them. In the meantime, I'll talk to the authorities and see what we can do for your people.
The answer is no. You've had all the time you're going to get. I want that report by 2100. Now, look here, Chaplain. I didn't expect these people to greet us with open arms. But as long as my troops are in this town, I'm going to go on dealing firmly with anyone who interferes.
I realize that, Colonel, but may I suggest there may be another way of dealing with the situation?
Another way?
This morning I met the pastor of the town church, the one we had a clobber with our artillery. He may be able to help us. Colonel, he tells me his people are hungry, cold. They haven't got enough food or clothing. Some of them haven't even got a place to live.
We're trying to do the best we can for them if they'll give us a chance.
I know that, sir, but what I'm getting to is the problem may be bigger than just taking care of their physical needs. Let me put it this way. In these isolated rural towns, every street, every house, every stone almost has a tradition. Well, unfortunately, much of that tradition has been destroyed, particularly along with the focal point of these people's lives, their church.
That church was being used as an OP, directing those 88s that were holding us up.
I know that.
Anyway, there isn't much I can do about that now.
I'm not so sure.
What do you have in mind, Chaplain?
Well, Colonel, to these people, their church is not just a place of worship. To them, their church is a symbol. It's a symbol of all the traditions that were life to them. Well, now it's all gone and there's a vacuum. Well, right now they're filling that vacuum with bitterness toward us. But why not give them something else to fill it with? Give them a place of worship. Give them the assurance that we care about them. I think that would change things. Make them feel a little less hostile.
We can't very well build them a new church.
No, sir, but we might do something about the old one.
Well, I suppose we could get the engineers to clear the rubble. And we might be able to spare them some material to patch the roof.
Colonel, I'd really appreciate that.
Okay, I'll put men and equipment on it, Chaplain. You follow it up and keep me informed.
Yes, sir.
Anything you need, just let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, we couldn't do an awful lot with that church. But the fact that we tried went a long way toward filling the vacuum in those people's lives. I can't say that the trouble completely disappeared. But we were able to establish order. And the life of the town went on. The point is, Captain, we were only a small part of a big army. We had a problem that wasn't covered by anything in our books. Fortunately, we had a man with us who knew a book that did cover it. Sanford Kane, Chaplain, United States Army.
Well, I think you've got a point there. But that was back during the war. It was an unusual situation. The chaplain just happened to fit into it.
There's more to it than that, Captain. Much more. War or peace, the chaplain can put his unique background to work helping the troop commander in many different and often surprising ways. Witness, Colonel Allen T. Garnett.
To every commander, the morale of his men is a vital factor in fulfilling his military mission, whether in combat or peacetime. A lot of things contribute to morale, especially around the holidays. Captain, I remember one Christmas in particular.
Well, the office certainly did well by you with the decorations this year, Colonel. Well, now, let's see. Oh, yes, we've just received the circular on the leave policy for the Christmas holidays.
It's about what I expected. Ted, is it just my imagination? Or do things seem to be unusually quiet around this post?
Quiet, sir?
Well, you know how it is around here during the Christmas holidays.
Oh, yes, sir.
Usually by now, the unit commanders are getting the gripes from all sides from the men who've pulled the Christmas duty.
When I come to think of it, I haven't heard a ripple. Hardly seems natural, does it?
I was talking to one of the company commanders this afternoon. And he told me the morale around this post was higher than he's ever seen it for this time of the year.
Well, now, that is serious.
Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
Well, let's hope not,
You know, Ted, I'm curious about this. Tell you what, why don't you ask around, see what you can find out, huh?
All right.
There's got to be a reason.
Well, there usually is.
Cigarette?
Oh, thank you, Colonel.
Sergeant,
Yes, sir?
do you notice anything strange around the post?
Well, strange? What do you mean, Colonel?
Well, different. Like, well, here it is right before Christmas, and everybody seems so happy. No gripes.
That's right, sir. I've been wondering about that myself. No holiday gripes. Just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, that's it. You got any idea what's happened?
No, sir. But it sure doesn't sound like this man's army.
Well, ask around and see what you can find out, huh?
Yes, sir.
There has to be a reason.
Of course, there was a reason. But I didn't find out till after the holidays. The explanation, though, was there all the time.
Maury?
Hey, cut it out.
Maury!
Yeah, what is it you want, huh? Oh, Chaplain Siskin. I didn't know it was you.
That's all right. Maury, how are things? Everything going along smoothly?
Oh, sure.
No problems?
No, everything's
Good,
fine.
good. Maury, when's the last time you caught CQ?
What? Just a couple of weeks ago. Why? Did I do something wrong, Rabbi?
The question is not whether you did something wrong, but whether you'll do something right.
I don't follow you, Rabbi.
Charity, Maury. Charity. You do believe in charity.
Oh, of course I do. I'm always contributing to those collections you make.
No, I'm not talking about those kind of contributions. I'm talking about the greatest gift of all, the gift of yourself.
I guess I'm just not with it. What is it you want me to do?
Take CQ from McCardle so he can be home with his wife and kids for Christmas.
Gee, Rabbi, I was hoping I was going to get a pass myself.
Maury, how would you feel if you caught CQ for Yom Kippur?
Okay.
Without anyone in headquarters knowing anything about it, Chaplain Siskin, our post-Jewish chaplain, had made the rounds of the Jewish men who hadn't drawn duty for Christmas. It certainly wasn't the most popular mission in the world, but Chaplain Siskin, well, he knew his congregation, and right up through the ranks, they entered into his plan. Chaplain Siskin was well aware of our annual holiday morale problem, and so he decided to do something about it on his own. In my Army experience, I remember Christmas in many strange places and under many unusual circumstances. But one of my most pleasant memories for that holiday season was one Rabbi Abraham Siskin, chaplain, U.S. Army.
I think I'm beginning to see how it works. I guess I've had kind of limited ideas about what the chaplain's job